You probably already know what this video is about from the title. To plainly put it, a while back I was harshly reviewing Leigh Anne's EP, and I wanted to revisit it to try to give it a fair shake. Now don't get this twisted, for the most part my opinion remains the same regarding No Hard Feelings, although I remember stating that Leigh Anne wasn't ready to drop this EP because she didn't have much to say. And now I can confidently say I couldn't have been more wrong. Okay, so let me set the record straight on why I was harsh on No Hard Feelings. On my last review, I was still very frustrated with Leigh Anne for her On Again, Off Again debut, which is very ironic because the video that I'm referencing, it was supposed to be about letting all the negativity go and just celebrating whatever milestones Normani and Leigh Anne were hitting in their careers. However, I guess I still had residual feelings about her 2023 rollout. The biggest thing that irritated me was when she pulled a Normani, in a sense. She was teasing the album all throughout 2023, but said album never came. I felt like Leigh pulled the trigger prematurely and I got excited over nothing, and I don't like having blue balls. The thing is, I had laid back expectations at first, but then Leigh Anne would go on to interviews saying that she wanted to be this huge global superstar, so I guess I got ahead of myself setting my expectations super high, and I was expecting Ice Spice level of promo with great hit singles. Instead, so far we've gotten one blockbuster single that wasn't pushed, no album, a random book tour, and an EP that made no noise. I hated the confusion. You could tell there was no clear plan. Leigh hyping up her debut era only to stop midway through, then stop, then come back to set up a mini era where she dropped an EP. It was a little annoying to say the least.
Tell him louder for the
louder at the back.
And my agitation kind of reached a new level when I finally realized during Leigh's EP era that the whole blockbuster marketing thing was never going to happen. We're never going to get another My Love. So all that bitterness came out during my initial review for the EP. Not to mention her revealing so many intimate details on her relationship, blinding me to the many layers No Hard Feelings had. Now that I'm used to Leigh Anne being so open with her life, I think I can fully digest this EP. Although my opinion from my last review hasn't changed much, I recognize I was too caught up in the drama. With all that said, I'd like to focus on the positives and talk about all the good stuff No Hard Feelings had to offer. No Hard Feelings is an easy listen, but it's not lethargic or too vibey. It's breezy, but keeps you stimulated. The instrumentals are pretty great on here. I didn't realize how many genres Leigh Anne was blending because it was just so seamless. I was looking online and I saw a lot of fan speculation that she might have sampled a few people. Some people were mentioning Rema, Janet Jackson, Celine Dion, which after seeing people's proof or the evidence of it, I think it's a strong possibility. And if all that's true, props to Leigh Anne. She has an eclectic musical palette.
Woo! Do-do-do.
Someone mentioned she sampled Janet's Got Till It's Gone on I'll Still Be Here. Which, if you didn't know, Janet sampled Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi on Got Till It's Gone, and Got Till It's Gone is one of my favorite Janet tracks ever, which makes me appreciate I'll Still Be Here even more. It's already my fave song from the EP, No Hard Feelings, editing me here. So I did a little research and found out that I'll Still Be Here might have interpreted the Jackson 5 song I'll Be There.
Just call my name and I'll be there. You're a little bit off then.
Okay.
It's something I found online and I can't quite hear it, but they do have similar sounds, so I think it's believable. Or maybe the fans were right and she just interpolated or sampled Janet. I wouldn't know. Interpolations are credited differently since you're reworking a song into something completely new. But the Jackson influence doesn't stop there.
I think equally they have like places in my heart for sure.
On Stealing Love, Leigh Anne actually samples Jermaine Jackson's Do What You Do. Another song that gets a sampling bug is OMG. It samples the Little Mix song of the same name. I can't quite catch how exactly she uses it, but she did rework it somewhere in there and she did it so well. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for the credits. Also, speculations that she sampled Rema on this song falls flat to me because from what I can tell, she just used the same synthesizer he did on his song Addicted. And both songs have Afrobeats instrumentals, so it's like that combined together. Maybe people thought, oh, she sampled him, but nowhere in the credits does it state that he was sampled, so I don't believe it. I also want to say No Hard Feelings has stellar lyricism in it too. For example, Still in Love was written so well, it can have several different meanings to it. On the surface, it's about a lover selfishly taking advantage of you, or it could be about someone helplessly being in love with a self-sabotaging partner who doesn't know how to handle real love. Like, the first lines hit me hard. Why you even lie to yourself? I don't need to see it in your eyes. I can already tell. I'm giving you all that, all the love and the space and the time that I ain't gonna get back. No, you're still in love. You're still in love. You can take it literal and see that this is about her lover betraying her.
For sure.
And she's going to be the bigger person, giving them the emotional support they're not going to give back. Or it can signify how sharp Leigh's tuition is, knowing her lover better than he knows himself. Although he did something very horrible, she knows that he still loves her, and maybe he was self-sabotaging. Y'all, I ran with this theory so hard I went on Genius to plug in my thoughts. The next track I want to highlight is Forbidden Fruit. This track made me understand a little bit more on why Leigh chose to work it out with her husband. I'm just theorizing. All this is speculation. In this song, she comes clean about stepping out on her partner with Andre. She too is a flawed person. She too is someone who self-sabotages and makes horrible mistakes. So who is she to judge Andre when he has similar traits? Again, this is all my speculation. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comments. I could be reaching. Funny enough though, how Leigh Anne tells the story is what really intrigues me. This song references Adam and Eve. The story goes, unsuspecting innocent Adam is duped by the wicked seductress Eve. However, in this track, Leigh is in the Adam role and Andre in the Eve role, because it seems like in the song she is the pursuer and she sings about Andre like he's her pretty little boo thing. The lyrics go, oh, all this sweet temptation, boy you make me want to try, something naughty naughty going through my body, the way I'm looking at you. Like, this song flips the traditional gender roles and power, but don't get it twisted, there's no innocent victim here. The song shows how both parties are equally responsible in the affair, which raises the question, what would you do for quote-unquote true love? Because this song makes it clear no matter the cost, true love is worth it. Another track I want to talk about is OMG. This song is very sexual. I hadn't realized how sexual at first until I really looked at the lyrics and paid attention to the vocal performance. Did y'all notice that the song literally simulates adult activity? The first verse is foreplay, focusing on the emotional connection between partners. Then we get into the know what you need right before you speak, watch me do my thing side to side. That's when things get real physical and start to rev up further along in the song until it reaches the climax during the final hook where she sings on God, on God, on God. By the way she's singing it is very suggestive and kind of breathy. I think it's symbolic of the big O. I also find it interesting that in OMG's music video we see the color come back into her life, being in the throes of passion of the lover she's meant to be with. Okay, so I also want to talk about I'll Still Be Here. It's about sticking by your lover no matter what, but I think the better take is this could be the love letter to the fans and her dedication to stick by them no matter what. This could also speak to trials and tribulations Leigh faced in the industry while in Little Mix. She could be making her proclamation that no matter her past grief, that she's sticking it out, that she's pursuing her pop career. When she performed this song at the Lafayette, it literally gave me goosebumps. Needless to say, there's a lot of substance in this EP. I was wrong before. Leigh did in fact have something to say with this project. The biggest theme that stood out to me was the value of true love. What are you willing to do for love? From stepping out on a relationship to sticking to your man's side no matter what. Plus, love needs to be cultivated. It needs to be fostered to last both emotionally and physically. And we all know Leigh's got that part covered. There's a lot of themes about female agency here, whether it be making bad decisions, boldly claiming female sexuality, or choosing to invest in a relationship. And I'm thinking she wanted to highlight agency, especially because during her Little Mix years, she didn't have much of it. In a way, No Hard Feelings was Leigh Anne's origin story. Maybe she can follow a SZA, Taylor Swift archetype, being a hopeless romantic singer-songwriter.
I love it.
Showing all the multifaceted dimensions about love. I'm definitely going to be patient with her and have more grace with her from here on out. Also, I wanted to add that I think Leigh Anne is making a lot of statements with this EP, one of which is, I can be this global pop act without sacrificing my Black identity. This is something she's been trying to accomplish for a while now. I remember during her years in Little Mix, she consistently tried to represent her heritage at every opportunity. She advocated for inclusion and spoke out against anti-Black discrimination. Now, Leigh Anne's pursuit of success as a Black pop star comes with some obstacles. The UK isn't particularly known for launching global Black pop stars. They've done it before, but they're not the best at it. The problem is that the UK is a predominantly white place. Between England and Wales, there are only a few million Black people. With such a large white public, it might be challenging for a Black artist to resonate widely. It's not impossible, but people tend to gravitate towards those who look like them.
If there was a white male hiring manager and you had two candidates, one a Black male and one a white male, they're more likely, based on unconscious bias, to get someone who looks like them and hire someone who looks like them. You know, if we're not able to see representation, then the impact is that some of the younger generations, they're not going to feel that they can fit in.
I guess I could kind of relate that to my experience. Like, that predominantly white fan base will favour the girl that looks like that.
It is what it is. Not to mention, anti-blackness remains an issue.
For sure.
People stigmatize you without giving you a chance, which is frustrating. Leigh Anne also has a mostly white fan base from her Little Mix days, which can be a double-edged sword. It's great she's been able to attract a white audience, as a lot of black artists struggle to do so. But fans who aren't black might not pick up on the subtle anti-blackness or notice all the ways Leigh Anne is mistreated. Don't get me wrong, like, her fans fight for her, but they have obvious blind spots. Consequently, sometimes I think Leigh Anne feels burdened to speak up for herself as frequently as she needs to. You know, she can't always speak up for herself because it will become a problem career-wise, since the industry doesn't like it when you speak out too much, and people might see her as like a red flag. I've personally seen how vile some Little Mix solo stands have been toward Leigh Anne. The whole Jessie Nelson situation really exposed the racial issues within the fandom. As a result, whenever someone points out a racial mistreatment or bias against Leigh Anne, some fans will shut you down or be dismissive. Many Little Mix fans don't realize that the fandom isn't the safest place for people of color, black fans specifically. This situation isn't unique to Leigh Anne, though. Kat Burns has also mentioned this being an issue.
Last tour with the Q&A, the black artist would always ask a question, and sometimes it's majority white people, and I can see the fear in them trying to ask something about being black.
Oh my gosh.
But it's always nice for that conversations to happen, because I'm always looking at my other fan bases and being like, this is a hard thing to do, to be in a space with around lots of white people and have that conversation and not wanting to almost feel like a burden to people, and you know, that kind of thing where you feel like, I'm scared to mention something about my race because you almost don't want to be seen as, oh, I'm playing the race card. Oh, people are going to look at me like I'm complaining. Sometimes you feel that a lot, and the fact we're able to have fan bases and spaces where we can speak about that, and black fans and black artists and black people or queer people or neurodivergent people can feel safe enough to say that in our spaces is quite a beautiful world that we've been able to make with music.
It's so lovely.
In fact, I think one of the major reasons why Leigh Anne made her documentary Race, Pop, and Power was to call out the racial bias within the Little Mix fandom. Ironically, when you think of Little Mix, half of them being POCs, this wouldn't be a huge issue. However, pop was designed with a white consumer in mind, so people of color aren't prioritized and they're barely represented as is, making mistreatment inevitable. This is why I think Leigh Anne is pivoting towards a black audience. This isn't the only reason why she's pivoting to a black audience, let me just make that clear, but I think it's one of the reasons. Make no mistake, No Hard Feelings was a calling card to black listeners. My theory is that she wanted to establish herself in that demographic so she can launch herself back into the UK mainstream and then the global market. Because let's be honest, her modest white audience can't do it on their own. Maybe that's why she's prioritizing the Brazilian music market as well. It's a very diverse space over there.
Yeah, right. Said that.
Ironically, though, as far as I can tell, no one black was really paying attention to this project. To be fair, no one outside of the fandom really paid much attention to this EP, and Warner Records put little money behind the promotion, so not surprised. But in general, I get the feeling the black UK audience, they know of her, but they're not really keeping up with her. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just me, but let me know your opinions on the matter in the comment section. I'm theorizing that perhaps black listeners don't feel comfortable with Leigh Anne yet. Maybe because a lot of them just don't know her, or maybe because of her tenure with Little Mix, they think that she's like a black artist for white people, like Lizzo, despite the fact that both artists make black music. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think below. Lastly, I just want to talk about Leigh Anne's career. I'm going to enjoy the ride. I don't know how things work in the UK, and things have changed since Little Mix debuted. There's a lot of reliance on social media. Now everything's done on TikTok, or there's a reliance on going viral. But it sucks because eras feel empty now and small, but yet people like Ice Spice have this huge machine behind them with big traditional promotions and have nothing to offer. And I'm like, okay, if the industry is still doing the big album campaigns, can we give it to artists who are worthy of it and who want it and have a built-in base? But whatever. That isn't happening with any of the Little Mix girls, and it's not their fault. And I just want to add that the big blockbuster campaigns is part of the fan experience. Like, I miss having to wait on release days and having to, share my thoughts with a group of people online. Like, I don't know who to talk to about Leigh Anne's work. Like, it feels very empty. Like, where do the Leigh Anne fans go to talk about her work, to commune with others, just to chop it up? Like, I miss that. with Leigh, I have come to terms with her career downsizing in comparison to her group days. I think she's doing okay. I really don't know. She's booked a couple of festivals and I was hoping there'd be new music out by now, but it's whatever. No Hard Feelings has 19 million streams on Spotify. She has 400,000 monthly listeners, which isn't bad. Right now, she has a lot of avenues that she can pursue. She can go back to acting. She can open for a larger artist. She can write for other artists. She can do features. There's a lot of opportunities that can come from a modest profile. And she still has pull from her Little Mix days, so I think Leigh's in a good spot. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Leigh for Jessie. My Jessamine is one of the most incredible people I've ever met. Literally, like, she is so inspiring. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Incredible person, yeah. Very inspiring.
Yeah.
And she doesn't realise, like, how much she does inspire people. Oh. And she will always make you feel better. Fucking hell.
Well.
Yeah!
Molly, you in danger, girl.
They were one of the biggest girl groups on the planet, a symbol of sisterhood, empowerment, and just unapologetically fun. For a decade, Little Mix wasn't just a pop group, they were a cultural force. Their whole message was unity, their brand was friendship, and for millions of fans, they were the four women who proved that together you could conquer anything. That was the image that defined Little Mix, but behind the glitter and the glamour, a storm is brewing. December 14th, 2020, that's a date pretty much etched into the memory of every Little Mix fan. After weeks of rumors swirling around her absence from live shows and a quick announcement saying that she was going to take a step back, an official announcement dropped that sent shockwaves to the fandom. Jessie Nelson was leaving Little Mix. In a heartfelt post, Jessie explained that 9 years in the spotlight had taken a massive toll on her mental health. She talked about the constant pressure of being in a girl group, living up to everyone's expectations, a struggle she had already bravely shared in her award-winning 2019 documentary, Odd One Out.
It's about mental health awareness.
At first, the fan reaction was a huge outpouring of love and support. Of course, there was sadness, but underneath all that grief, there was understanding. I personally felt dumb, not seeing this coming. Everything was signaling a departure, but Little Mix had such a compelling sisterhood, I couldn't imagine anyone voluntarily stepping away from the group. Anyways, fans had watched Jessie's painful journey with online bullying and body image issues for years. If leaving was what she wanted to do to be happy, everyone, including me, I was supportive of that. And not for nothing, because of Jessie, Little Mix was one of the first pop acts of their generation to publicly talk about mental health.
I always used to like look at the other girls in the group and think, God, I'd just love to know what it feels like to be you. And I thought, God, there must be so many girls that wake up and still feel like that and think there's not a light at the end of the tunnel.
During the early 2010s when it was still taboo, we not only had Jessie be open about her mental health struggles, but also navigate the pop industry as a full-figured woman, a body type not accepted back then. So she made an impact. The other members, Perry Edwards, Leigh Anne Pinnock, and Jade Thirlwall, put out their own statements in response to Jessie's departure, saying pretty much the same thing. They wrote, "This is an incredibly sad time for us. We're all supportive of Jessie. We love her very much. And we all agree that she should be taking care of her mental health," something like that. In that moment, it felt like a mature, bittersweet, respectful goodbye, a nod to the decade of friendship they all shared. But what seemed like a peaceful conclusion was actually just the calm before the storm. Nobody could have guessed that this one decision, made for the sake of mental health, would ignite a whirlwind of deep-seated issues that would shatter the group's legacy and turn their own fandom into a toxic battleground. 10 months later, October 2021, Jessie Nelson was back. Her solo debut was one of the most highly anticipated moments within the Mixer fandom, much to the shock of us who thought that she'd leave the industry as a whole for the sake of her mental health.
It's about mental health awareness.
But to be fair, Jessie didn't explicitly say that in her statement. However, nonetheless, it was misleading. That's just my opinion. It was very misleading. Moving on, her debut single was called Boys, a slick R&B track featuring rap superstar Nicki Minaj, and it heavily sampled P. Diddy's 2001 hit Bad Boy for Life. But the second that video dropped, the conversation wasn't about the music. It was all about how Jessie looked. The video showed Jessie with a very deep tan, plump lips, and an aesthetic that showed heavily borrowed from like black and hip hop culture. Almost immediately, social media blew up with accusations of blackfishing. Critics argued Jessie was cashing in on black aesthetics without ever really living the systematic racism that black people face every single day. Mind you, this wasn't the first time she'd faced these accusations. I remember fans calling her out when she was in Little Mix, most notably during her Bounce Back shoot and the one for Sweet Melody as well. And from what I recall, nothing was addressed or done about it. So, if I'm wrong, please correct me down below. expound on it down below, but I'm just like, it just came and went. And I'm like, dang, she really don't care.
I don't know, it's just terrifying.
But now as a solo artist, the criticism was way louder. Jessie defended her look, saying that her hair was naturally curly and that it wasn't her intention to offend anyone of color. For a lot of people, that explanation didn't cut it. Jessie was warned beforehand by fans, like I mentioned prior, yet she kept doing it. The boys video became a lightning rod for a much bigger conversation about cultural appropriation. And for the Little Mix fandom, it was a moment the ground split right down the middle. One side rushed to defend Jessie, saying that she was being unfairly attacked for paying homage to the music she loved. The other side was horrified, seeing her actions as deeply offensive and a betrayal of the group's values. The lines were drawn and things were about to get personal. If the boys video created a crack in the fandom, the Instagram live that came next shattered it. Days after the video's release, Jessie went live on Instagram with Nicki Minaj, which should have been a standard promo chat quickly turned into one of the most shocking moments in Little Mix history. What spurred it were unverified leaked screenshots, supposedly from Leigh Anne Pinnock's Instagram account, that had been sent to an influencer. In these alleged messages, Leigh Anne seemed to call Jessie a horrible person and egged on a creator to make a blackfishing video about her.
But she did really well. I was very proud.
On the live stream, Nicki launched into a furious tirade against Leigh Anne. I mean, it was a mess.
Take them text messages and shove it up your fucking ass. Because when you do clown shit, I gotta treat you and talk to you like you a clown.
And while all this was happening, Jessie Nelson just sat there and laughed. She didn't defend Leigh Anne, the woman she called her sister for a decade. She didn't try to calm things down. She just stayed silent as her new collaborator publicly humiliated her ex-bandmate. For anyone watching, especially a longtime Little Mix fan, it was jaw-dropping betrayal. Jessie had built an entire brand on anti-bullying and kindness. Now she was being complicit in Leigh Anne's hate train. Overall, the Instagram live stream was very disheartening, but also kind of insightful on how the group navigated race. If you want me to do a video on that, please let me know down below. Editing me here, I remember saying in the comments when I originally posted this video that there was more going on with the Jessie Nelson situation than what we all originally thought. Personally, I think there were bigger forces at play. Maybe opposing labels or management teams were using the girls' beefs to their advantage. The way Jessie's whole blackfishing controversy blew up felt suspicious to me. Of course, there was going to be some backlash. Seeing a white girl in a music video like Boys, it was bound to cause a stir, but the way it spiraled with both sides of the Atlantic coming down on her seemed out of proportion. It makes me wonder if her old label was determined to tear down Jessie's solo career before it even started. I'm not sure if the girls themselves were directly involved, but I wouldn't rule it out completely. There's bound to be some resentment with how quickly and quietly Jessie launched her solo career with a massive feature like Nicki Minaj, no less, on her debut single. That's a superstar Little Mix worked 7 years to secure. So I can only imagine that stung. Although the girls didn't do much. I mean, they didn't drag Jessie. They kept it pretty classy for the most part. All they did was speak out in a magazine article disputing the false claims that they didn't bring up cultural appropriation to Jessie when in fact they did. They could have done a lot more if they wanted to, and for those who insist Leigh Anne was the driving force behind Jessie's hate train, most of y'all probably believe that those leaked DMs were real too. But I'd argue, what power does Leigh Anne have to conjure up a hate train? Messaging a small influencer who had like around less than 1 million followers across his platforms? What's that gonna do? She'd have to utilize several large influencers and outlets to get something going, which means she'd need deep pockets, more than when Little Mix pays. So how can you honestly blame her for Jessie's downfall when a huge amount of fervor was happening before those DMs hit the blogs? It was over for old girl before Leigh Anne was brought into things. It literally doesn't make any sense. Mind you, looking at these texts, which I don't think are real, the most vitriol I see comes across as sarcasm or sadness. So all those people who are constructing arguments like Leigh Anne's a hypocrite, she's the jealous one, you're wasting your breath. Jessie's actions led her to her cancellation. And I personally believe it was amplified by large organizations and not little old Leigh Anne. At the end of the day, Jessie thought it was a good idea to put out a distasteful video about Black American culture at the height of BLM, and then she sealed her fate when she sat on that Instagram live and was complicit with an international superstar dragging Leigh Anne in the group. She brought a nuke to a gunfight, then started fraternizing with Leigh Anne's ex-best friend and ex-boyfriend. Talk about distasteful. She was doing too much. And if you look at Leigh Anne and Jessie's friendship, in my opinion, Leigh was the more giving and more supportive party. I personally believe the reason why they fell out wasn't just the blackfishing thing. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think there was more to the story. The popular gotcha that the Jessie stans try to bring up to discredit Leigh Anne, to call her a hypocrite, is this pic right here. Haters argue, how can Leigh Anne be mad at Jessie for blackfishing while having a friend doing the similar aesthetic? On the surface, I get why people think that, but I think there's more to the situation. I gotta admit, this friend had the Kardashian package down pat. However, I think the reason why Leigh Anne's cool with her is because she's the friend who's willing to pull up.
I mean, how many of us in this room have colleagues and partners and friends from other races, sexes, religions? Well, then, you know, they want to break bread with you, right? They like you? Well, then, this is their problem, too. So when we're marching and protesting and posting, tell your friends to pull up.
She doesn't mind speaking out against injustice or protesting for Black lives. Now, please remind me, has anyone ever seen Jessie do the same? No, seriously, please let me know, because that's probably where Leigh Anne's frustration comes from. Jessie's apathy toward her struggles. That and her undermining Leigh's position as the Black woman in the group, and Jessie's lack of accountability. I remember when Jessie got caught up in the N-word scandal back in 2019. She had posted a video of her friend singing the N-word multiple times in a club. Some even speculated that Jessie was filming and even singing the slur behind the camera. But regardless, it was a mess, and she should have known better. In 2019, people knew better. That incident showed Jessie's recklessness, and she didn't care about her actions being offensive or how they reflected on Leigh and the group's image. Little Mix's squeaky clean brand didn't mix well with racial slurs in the club. Like, at that point, Jessie was ruining the money, and yet still, Leigh saw her as a friend and gave her grace. Leigh was so down for Jessie that she was featured on Odd One Out, months later speaking up for her.
She is a little bit of a nightmare when it comes to like video shoots and photo shoots and approving things, and it has been a bit hard within the group. I think people don't realise the effects of what bullying and trolling can actually do to someone. The trolls took away like her love for it and like her passion.
Wanting people to take Jessie's struggles seriously. Now, that couldn't be me, but from seeing that, you can never make me believe Leigh is the villain. Naive, maybe. A doormat, maybe. So anyone, please remind me, have we seen Jessie even reciprocate that kind of protection or care about Leigh Anne? Matter of fact, when I look back, I wonder, where was Jessie when Leigh released her own doc? Leigh showed up for Jessie's doc on camera, but Jessie didn't pull up for Leigh in her doc? That's interesting. Something else I want to bring up is how Jessie's blackfishing might have challenged Leigh Anne's standing within the group. Leigh had been vocal about not knowing where she fit in the quartet, feeling lost.
Little Mix as a whole didn't work without each individual part, and we all needed to stand out on our own, as well as coming together seamlessly as a collective. But when we came off the show, it felt to me that the others had already found their identities. They all seemed to already have their own roles that they slipped into effortlessly. They all had identities that made perfect sense. It wasn't that I was the only person struggling with newfound fame, but I felt lost in comparison. Perry was the gorgeous, glamorous blonde with the big voice. Jade was the cute one, adorably pocket-sized, Disney princess eyes, butter wouldn't melt smile, and that sweet, soft Geordie accent. Jessie was the cool one, the sick dancer with the urban style, baggy jeans and oversized tees. She had already spoken out bravely on her experiences of being bullied. She was already an inspiration for so many girls. But me? What did I have to offer?
One thing she had was being the Black girl, but that was a double-edged sword since it made her invisible to the fans. But her blackness was used to give the group some edge and allowed them to dabble into Black genres. She was also being used up and discarded at the same time. So seeing someone like Jessie kind of adopting racially ambiguous Black aesthetics while Leigh struggling in a group from how people perceive her race.
Leigh Anne has been going through this for a while behind the scenes. It got to a point where Leigh Anne had to be like, girl, can you tone the tan down just a little bit? There's only one Black girl in this group.
On top of the identity issues that she was dealing with was so messed up.
Because I think as well, I've interviewed Leigh Anne about a similar thing that she went through. So she was searching out the online hate. Did you guys ever discuss it?
No. I knew it affected Leigh Anne though. Yeah. She's better at dealing with it than me. Yeah.
Jessie saw how the racism was affecting Leigh Anne, yet she felt comfortable enough to co-opt Black looks, knowing she wouldn't have to deal with any of the consequences Leigh had to, highlighting the imbalance between appropriation and Leigh Anne's real experience of prejudice. She was basically rubbing Leigh Anne's discrimination in her face. Can you imagine if something like that happened to Jessie? What if Leigh Anne became the face of body positivity and mental health in the group? Meanwhile, Jessie's next to her, like, suffering from body dysmorphia, depression, and ED. I mean, what are we doing here? Plus, when Leigh Anne started speaking up against anti-blackness around 2018, in my opinion, her message was undermined when she had a whole ass group member cosplaying as a mixed person in the group who had an N-word scandal. Leigh's friendship with Jessie was imbalanced. When you have too much love in your heart and not enough discernment, it can lead to giving more grace to people who don't deserve it. Moving on, the hypocrisy was staggering. The live was a point of no return. It turned the conversation from a nuanced debate about culture and race into a direct and brutal feud, mostly targeted towards the black member of Little Mix. Did anyone find the irony in that the girl who should have been the most offended became the target in all this? Freshly postpartum and all. This confirmed that the sisterhood that had defined Little Mix for a decade wasn't just broken, it was gone. Or worse than that, it exposed how there was always a seething bitterness and animosity within Little Mix's community.
But that time when I think I remember that time when you really got on my nerves. But that time when you said that all about getting on your nerves was actually the time when I thought that I really, really liked you. Yeah, and then I realized there was that time when I just don't like you at all. But that time when you said to me that you said that you were going to be my best friend. And then there was the time.
The fallout from the Instagram Live was immediate and catastrophic. It completely changed the story around the band and exposed a really ugly side of the fandom. And at the center of it all was Leigh Anne Pinnock. Just months prior, in May 2021, Leigh Anne had released a powerful BBC documentary called Race, Pop, and Power. In it, she talked about her experiences with racism in the music industry and feeling invisible as the only black member of Little Mix. She remembered being ignored by fans and being told that she'd have to work harder because of her race and the pain of feeling like the least favored member. Her documentary was a brave and vulnerable look at the real issues black artists face. So when the blackfishing controversy blew up, people still had Leigh Anne's concerns fresh on their minds. If she did write those DMs, I'd assume they weren't coming from a place of jealousy. As Nikki and some fans are claiming, they were rooted in years of her own lived experiences. She understood the harm of co-opting black aesthetics for profit because she had lived the reality of being a black woman in an industry that often tokenized and dismissed her. Something you'd think Nicki Minaj would rally behind, but as I digress. Instead of siding with Leigh Anne and talking about her very real issues of racism, a loud and aggressive part of the fandom turned on her. She became the scapegoat. The narrative got twisted to paint her as the bitter one trying to sabotage Jessie's solo career.
Oh, for goodness sake!
It was a convenient distraction because it allowed some fans to completely dodge the uncomfortable conversations about race. And it was just easier to call Leigh Anne a bully than to admit her perspective was valid and that Jessie's actions were problematic. Despite Jessie's being responsible for stalling her career, Leigh will forever be treated as the issue to some degree. Haters watch her with a fine-tooth comb, holding her to a very high standard. So if or when she slips up, they have an excuse to be hateful and drag her over the coals. Or they constantly check to see if she's being properly supportive towards the other girls during the releases and announcements.
Bit of a random video, but this was something I was thinking about last night. So I've been waiting all weekend for Jade and Leigh Anne to show Perry support over her new album. First of all, when I say the album is unbelievable. I've been waiting patiently for Leigh Anne to show Perry some public support. Now, Leigh Anne has been active in her stories. I know she's been busy. She was performing in Malta. But we're now into day 3 of release for Perry, and there's been no public support shown. And I just don't understand why. Why wouldn't you support her on release day publicly? I know she has liked a few of the posts, but she hasn't commented on any. But this is by no means any shade or hate on Leigh Anne. But come on, Leigh Anne, show Perry some support, please.
Or they paint her out to be some type of professional victim, completely ignoring the institutional challenges Leigh is up against. To her antis, she's the reason why racism thing was even a problem. In the very white pop world Little Mix existed in, Leigh was a filler member. People expected her to be quiet and play her role, not to be a nuisance to their entertainment, a common attitude towards POCs. However, in regard to Jade, the other woman of color in the group, her mixed heritage afforded her a degree of visual ambiguity, enabling her to be perceived as white by many, including fans and gatekeepers. This allowed her to often sidestep the rigid expectations and scrutiny placed on women of color. Conversely, Leigh Anne Pinnock's visible blackness, and specifically her blackness, right? Her blackness, despite her light skin and her loose hair texture, made it impossible for her to evade racial pigeonholing. Her physical representation, regardless of her proximity to whiteness, remained a focal point of her identity in the public eye, limiting the scope of her acceptance and role within the group. Because let's be honest, there was always a racism issue within the Little Mix fandom.
I'm from Little Mix. Yeah. You knew what you got into. But be honest.
Which is ironic since half of them are like POCs, but when a racist situation would happen, POC fans were dismissed, expected to get over it and move on. None of these scandals were ever, addressed. or they never stuck, and you just, I don't know, you kind of just had to move on. That is until Jesse's blackfishing. Now there's a large worldwide audience, or back then there was a worldwide black audience vocalizing their displeasure, and this was during BLM's peak, no less. And their outrage wasn't going to be dismissed. It was the first time the fandom had to contend with this racist dark underbelly head on. An ex-Little Mix member was being racially insensitive for the whole world to see, and she was being dragged for it. No one could turn a blind eye to it anymore or delude themselves of the ignorant bliss the Little Mix nostalgia brought, not with Leigh Anne around. Like it or not, she was a reminder to the haters that their fave, or their perfect Little Mix image, intrinsically had deep issues. So as a result, she's constantly harassed. The Mixer fandom fractures into warring groups. Jessie stans who defended her no matter what, and those who stood with Leigh Anne, Perry, and Jade.
To be honest, the whole thing was hard.
The fight wasn't about the sisterhood anymore, it was about loyalty and whether you should hold your idols accountable. While the fandom was busy tearing itself apart, the 3 remaining members of Little Mix had to somehow get through it all. They kept a dignified public silence on the drama itself, but their actions spoke volumes. They unfollowed Jessie on social media and publicly rallied behind Leigh Anne. The trio pushed forward, releasing their greatest hits album, Between Us, and embarking on a final triumphant tour that felt like a victory lap as well as a farewell. Leigh Anne later revealed that the whole period was very traumatic for her and that the members had to go to therapy to process the messy and abrupt split. The main reason why I supported her solo career, mind you, was to correct all these wrongs that she'd been through in the group. Leigh deserved to have a second shot at pop stardom with the backing of a major label to show the world that she is that girl.
Were you able to speak to your bandmates at the time about feeling that, you know, how the industry was invalidating you and how, you know, there were fans that weren't turning up for you?
I remember like having like little jokes about it sometimes. I'll be like, oh, they don't care about me anyway. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know why I feel so like irrelevant in this group. Like, it's like there's nothing I can do to be on their level.
Screw you. Excuse me? Oh, you didn't hear me? Go screw yourself. And when you're done with that, you can go straight to hell and screw yourself there. Because I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm not a murderer, and I'm not a liar, and I'm not going anywhere. So the sooner you get over it, the better.
4 years ago this month, on October 2021, Leigh Anne Pinnock was a new mom of twins and 1/4 of the biggest girl group on the planet. Then in a single week, her world caught fire. She found herself at the center of a brutal online firestorm, one that was fueled by a former bandmate's controversial music video and fanned into a blaze by one of rap's biggest stars. Suddenly, she was experiencing the full force of online hate. As a result, she immediately gained the sympathy of the general public. If there was ever any doubt on the hardships Leigh Anne went through in her documentary, it was proven that in that moment, she was solidified as a victim who could never catch a break. So how is she transitioning from Little Mix's sob story to a career architect who's completely in charge of her own story? The redemption stories of Kesha, Demi Lovato, and Leigh Anne Pinnock follow similar methods in reclaiming the narrative. Today, I'm theorizing on the strategies they use. These are their victim-to-victor playbooks. The music industry has always sold a fantasy, effortless stardom, overnight success, and total creative freedom. But behind the curtain is a machine that builds stars, sure, but one that can also trap them. It crafts their image, controls their stories, and often owns not just the music, but the artists themselves. For decades, the machine ran unchallenged. If a star stepped out of line, the machine had ways of managing the story, painted them as difficult, unstable, or ungrateful. The house always won. But then something changed. The rise of social media handed artists a direct line to the public, a way to bypass the old gatekeepers. And a few artists have learned to use that tool with devastating skill. For Leigh Anne Pinnock, the cage was less obvious, but just as real. She was 1/4 of Little Mix, one of the biggest selling girl groups of all time, but inside that success, Leigh Anne felt a growing sense of being invisible. In her 2021 documentary, Leigh Anne Race, Pop, and Power, she finally opened up at the pain she'd felt for 10 years. She recalled being the only member consistently overlooked by fans and remembered specific moments where fans would literally walk past her just to get to her white bandmates.
We did a radio tour. We got off the plane and there were some fans standing waiting for us. And I was the first to kind of walk up to them and they just walked past me. I went to the other girls.
She confessed to feeling like a token black girl, wondering if she was just there for diversity points. Her situation was made worse when an ex-band member, with the help of a global rap star, started dragging her online. Apparently, it stemmed from leaked DMs Leigh allegedly sent where she supposedly made some disparaging remarks against the said ex-band member.
This self-proclaimed mixer, Nohun on socials, he shared alleged DMs from Leigh Anne, and Leigh Anne allegedly reached out to him writing, "No, do a video about her being a blackfish instead." However, there's a lot of skepticism. After this all went down over the weekend, Nicki and Jessie finally went on Instagram Live on Monday, and guys, they did not hold back. And then she seemingly came for Jessie's former Little Mix bandmates, saying, quote, "Let her enjoy this time. Now you sending this? Stop trying to hurt people. If you want a solo career, baby girl, just say that."
And all of this apparently happened because there was some backlash against this member doing blackfishing in one of her music videos. It's a long story. I already talked about it in my other video. I'm not doing all that. That's a basic rundown. Seemingly overnight, hordes of trolls attacked Leigh Anne online. It couldn't come at her worst time. Leigh had just delivered twins and she was in the best mental state. Despite the hate train, the bigger narrative was poor Leigh Anne. She couldn't catch a break. We just heard about her racism issues months prior with her doc. Now she's being attacked online, freshly postpartum. Faced with a career-defining crisis, Leigh Anne and her team didn't panic. They didn't get into the messy public feud. Instead, they played the long game with strategy, built on controlled messaging and radical honesty. It wasn't about fighting fire with fire. It was about building something completely fireproof. The first step was to take back control of the public narrative. Leigh Anne's team knew that staying silent for too long could look like an admission of guilt. She needed to speak, but it had to be on her own terms. Her first public appearance after the Instagram Live was her 30th birthday party, and a video filmed by a friend, a tearful but defiant Leigh Anne, addressed the attacks on her character head-on.
30 years old. I know my character. You know my character. Anyone that meets me knows my fucking character.
It was a simple, powerful, and very human moment. She didn't get into the hearsay of it all. She recentered the conversation on her integrity. The next move was even smarter. In November 2023, she released her memoir, Believe. The book was the perfect tool for narrative control. In its pages, Leigh Anne didn't just give her inside story. She placed it in the context of her entire life, detailing her struggles with racism and feeling invisible long before the public fallout. The book gave her a platform to speak directly to the audience. Without tabloid filters or social media commentary, it helped shift her image from character in a celebrity feud to author of her own life. She also kept promoting the Black Fund. She co-founded it with her sister and her partner, where they go out to Black organizations and she donates money to causes. It's good stuff. So she's no longer just a victim of a flawed system. She is now an architect trying to fix it. Again, we see her connecting her personal struggles to a larger issue, systemic racism, giving a voice to millions who feel similarly invisible in their own lives. This shared experience creates a bond far stronger than one based on catchy songs. It builds community built on pure empathy. Leigh Anne created a brand outside of Little Mix. Her brand was no longer just the black girl. It was Leigh Anne, the multifaceted force. She let her work do the talking. While the drama was still hot, she was making career moves that said more than a statement ever could. In December 2021, she made her acting film debut in Boxing Day, a Christmas rom-com celebrated for its largely black cast. She signed a solo record deal with Warner Records, February 2022. And it was another clear signal that she was moving forward. She started off her solo era with producing fusion of reggae and Afrobeats music, honoring her heritage. I want to say also at this time she had a more fashion-forward, avant-garde look. She did serious interviews and she was featured on prestigious platforms to promote herself as an intelligent, elegant woman who has a brain, as opposed to her like Little Mix persona where she was like the ditzy diva with a heart of gold. And I actually want to go further into her quote-unquote rebrand. I think the biggest example of this is her alter ego she's recently introducing to the public. Now, I'm not gonna talk about my spiritual hangups about this because we all know what it means when an alter ego is introduced. But anyways, with this new persona, it seems like a mix between The Grudge and some type of seductress. I'm not too sure where she's going with it, but I'm really hoping that whatever she does, she brings back diss track Leigh Anne.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Gordon. Better known as Kingpin. Oh, you're obviously extremely obsessed with me. Don't think I don't know how much you like to talk about me. It's getting creepy now, you know. The fact that you wasted your time doing 2 songs about me is verging on stalking. And the fact that you search for my pictures, obviously picking out your favourite ones, is enough to make me sick. You're a big man compared to me, yeah? You're turning 20 soon. And you're saying you'll be young again.
And you're sending for younger girls. It's weird. Right. The time you're taking it to write your two shitty dogs, are they writing music and making movements to actually get me somewhere? So you know what? Stay typed in your YMCA box room. Yeah. Keep writing your shitty lyrics. Keep collecting your benefits. Keep walking on road like you think you're a bad man. Because when I'm on TV, you're going to be in the same damn position.
I'm waiting for her female rage song. Moving on, she's continuing to build her business empire, investing in real estate, maintaining her swimwear line, and incorporating her family into the mix, having her sister as one of her managers, launching a podcast with her siblings, rumored to be released in the upcoming future, I don't know when. You can tell she's definitely inspired by Bad Girl Riri. This level of brand control reached its zenith with the icon Rihanna. She didn't just rebrand with the music, she built a whole empire, with Fenty Beauty and her lingerie line, Savage X Fenty. In doing so, she rewrote the rules of the entire beauty fashion industry in her own terms, creating what we know now as the Fenty effect. These were the later steps she took to successfully leave behind the victim label, where she cemented herself as a prolific businesswoman. But wait, there's more. After Leigh signed her solo deal with Warner, she soon realized it wasn't a good fit for her, stating there was too much politics. Not to mention the label had no idea how to market her, so in response, she made her final play. In May 2025, she announced she had parted ways with Warner to become an independent artist. Y'all, I didn't realize how modest Leigh Anne's fandom was until she went independent. I figured she'd clear 1 million streams within a week of a released track. I thought there'd be more followers on her IG official fan page, and to be honest, I'm a little disappointed in the Mixer fandom for not at least giving Leigh Anne loyalty streams. These solo stands yell for support from Mixers when it's their fave releasing music, but they hardly return the favor when it comes to supporting the other girls, which is the bare minimum. I mean, I had my critiques on Perry and Jade's music, but I made it a point to stream their releases. I didn't expect the Mixers to be Leigh stands or anything like that. I just thought for her first project dropping independently, I might add, they'd help Legion stream her music to get at least 1 million streams per release. And that goes for the album release as well. I don't think that's unreasonable, especially in like a week or two span. But maybe the gag is Mixers, the general group fandom, doesn't exist anymore. It's mostly solo stands now, and it's every girl for themselves. And what could I really expect from Mixers who have been ignoring Leigh since the beginning of her career? Maybe the real gag was expecting that these people would show up when they've always showed they've never really cared in the first place. Anyways, I'm having a hard time trying to adjust my expectations. I need to remember streaming and followers aren't the only metrics of success. Leigh's tour is mostly sold out, and she's updated all her European venues. She's attracted 40,000 people during her Reading Leeds festival set. It's easy to dismiss her 35,000 first day streams when you're looking at Spotify. But when you see it in person, you see how big it really is. Speaking of Spotify, most of Leigh's independent singles have reached 700,000 to 1 million streams. It might not be as quick as I want, but the future is looking bright. It's okay if Mixers aren't along for the ride. Leigh's attracting new listeners who are naturally attracted to her brand, and that will take time. She had a partnership with the Virgin Music Group, and she posted "Control Looks Good on Me," showing she was taking command over her business and creative future. Each of these steps, a controlled public statement, a candid memoir, and a strategic career move, work together to dismantle the victim narrative that constantly plagues her. Instead, she's opting to be like an architect, designing the world she wants to be in. Today, Leigh Anne is operating from a place of power that seemed impossible back in 2021. The hate campaign didn't break her. It was the catalyst to how she redefined her career entirely on her own terms. As a solo artist, her decision to leave a major label and going independent was the ultimate power move. By being independent, she's ensuring her music and her message are 100% her own. She's no longer a part of someone else's machine. She is the machine. Her memoir, Believe, has cemented her role as a voice for change. The book has served as a permanent context for her life and experiences with racism. Now, whenever old controversies are brought up, the book exists as a definitive source written and owned by her. It successfully reframed her from a pop star caught in drama to an author and advocate. What Leigh Anne pulled off, or is trying to pull off, is a masterclass in moving past the victimhood people try to place on you. She didn't feed the trolls. She didn't add to the drama. She healed privately, spoke powerfully, but selectively, locked in on her story in a permanent format, and made her career move, positioning herself in the driver's seat, showing herself as the puppet master, if you will. So these outside labels trying to pigeonhole her, they're kind of irrelevant, because in the world that she's building, they simply can't touch her. Her journey proves that in an age of digital outrage, the best revenge isn't a clapback, it's the quiet, determined act of building a life and a career that's unapologetically your own. The journeys of Kesha Demi Lovato and Leigh Anne Pinnock are more than just inspiring comeback stories. They are tactical masterclasses in modern power. They transform themselves from victims of an industry machine into architects of their own victories. They prove that in today's world, real power doesn't come from a label or a producer. It comes from owning your story, connecting with your audience on a human level, and having the guts to walk away from the table or rebuild it entirely in your own image. As always, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe.